Good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, whatever it be for you, people. Welcome to another episode of My Own Little World. It's been a while since we've seen each other. A lot has happened. Part of the reason I didn't do some streams is the air was terrible here in Santa Cruz. But before I get to that, I'll show you a little bit for all my map heads. I've got stuff to show you around that air is terrible thing that I think it's, even if you're not a map head, I think you'll appreciate this. But I have to do a little PSA right now. Oh, I was going to say, well, never mind. I was going to say Buenos Ding Dong Delia Dias in the word of Pedro Flanders, but I kind of ruined it. But I said it anyway. Little public service announcement. The new consoles are coming out for gaming, and I'm seeing a lot of really dumb comments like, your husband watched the kids, buy him a PS5. Can we stop that? Really? I mean, really, just stop making it video games are just for boys and men. And also the sexist comment that somehow being a dad earns you a PS5. Like, ugh, God. But that's a whole nother topic. But let's just stay on the video game thing now. Both of my girls I encouraged to video game. I video game with them, both because I want them to video game, but I also wanted my son to see that girls video gaming is normal and that's the way it should be. And so, sometimes I hang out in Twitch streams watching video gamers, and we have a long way to go. But I want you to stop making sexist comments about video gaming, okay? It doesn't help anybody. Like, it's a great benefit. Like, if you're a hetero guy and you find a female, if you're a hetero guy, let's just go with that for now. If you're a hetero guy and you find a female that you're attracted to and she likes video gaming, what could be better than that? So why wouldn't you want more people in the world who love video gaming that you can talk to? I don't get it. Anyway, I tried to get Angelina to play video games with me. She only really got into Goat Simulator, and that was it. Okay, video game's done. Now let's switch to the smoke stuff. So for those who don't know or been under a rock or something, the whole West Coast is basically on fire. And there's been terrible smoke. And I just want to show you something really kind of cool. So this is PurpleAir.com. They make those little IoT sensors you can put in your house, or outside your house in this case, and it measures air quality. And so this is us right now in the yellow. We were green yesterday. That really bums me out that we're yellow again. Yellow is air quality is acceptable. However, you're exposed for 24 hours. There may be a moderate health concern for sensitive people, right? But if you want to get a sense of what's happening on the West Coast right now, this doesn't actually show the fires. This actually just shows air quality. But that's what's happening on the West Coast. And this air quality being bad here is all from the jet stream pulling smoke over here. So Portland is actually a lot better than it used to be. It used to be up, my friends in Bend, I feel bad for them. But you notice the smoke's even going over Victoria, even though the fires are here. But my friends in Bend, like out in this area, they were up in the 500s. And sometimes during the peak of the smoke, Portland was like in the 600s. So that should just give you an idea. And if you like this data, there's also an API I found for PurpleAir where you can get the feed of the data and you can do all sorts of fun stuff with it if you're into that stuff. Okay, that's the intro for all the non-on-topic things we're going to talk about, unless someone has any other question. The air here was terrible for a while, and I didn't know it was actually so bad. It actually kind of made me depressed, and at the end of every day, my chest felt really heavy and my sinuses were miserable. It's no fun. It's really, and you have to close all the windows and you can't really go outside. And anyway, it was really harsh. Okay, so we're done with that. Let's close that up. So now let's move on to the topic of the day. Oh yeah. The tea is a mix of Assam and again Harney and Sons. Assam, decaf Assam, and cinnamon spice. Mug is from my daughter. I love it because it has a handle built right in. See, isn't that cool? Okay, let's get to the topic of the day. Crunchy Bridge. Oh, yeah. So we just launched Crunchy Bridge yesterday. This is as it says right here, your fully managed Postgres as a service. And so I guess what you're probably saying is, oh, okay, well, there's a lot of Postgres as a services. Where does this fit? Let's just start off. Where does this fit in the marketplace? Like if I'm looking for Postgres as a service? Well, actually, let's talk a second about why you might want Postgres as a service. And the idea here is, it's the same thing with anything as a service, is that Crunchy has, a bunch of the core committers We've helped customers, very large customers, run terabytes of data with backups and high availability, and we've advised them on that. We've helped them do it. We've been consultants in to help them do it. And so that's all that expertise and knowledge, including like having Paul Ramsey help with the PostGIS stuff, have Stephen Frost helping with some of the core features, having David Steele doing PG backrest, having Joe Conway doing PLR, like all that stuff comes bundled up and you don't have to think about it, right? So that's some of what you get from us. And you get, and so where we're positioning this basically in the market right now is in between something like RDS or Amazon or Azure Postgres. And there's some other high-end hosting services that I had never heard of, and I'm sure Craig or other people might know of them, but I don't know them, so I don't know. They're like more expensive is what I mean by higher end. So we're in the middle in terms of pricing, and what you get for that pricing is more flexibility and better support, right? Because we all know that sometimes with those large providers, it's tough to get support on the things you want to get support for. And I'll show some of that flexibility in a minute. Before I start showing stuff though, do you want me to, let me scroll down and show you some of the selling features, right? Production ready, developer friendly. Just like I said, you just provision a database and you go, right? And you get Postgres and you don't have to worry. We do the backups for you. We set up high availability for you. We do all that stuff, right? We give you either of these two clouds, AWS or Azure, right? This is just to start with. For those Google fans, Google heads, if you want GCP, that would be a really great of you to give us feedback. Right now, we're not seeing a ton of demand for Google, so we're kind of holding on that one until we see a bunch of people say, I really need Google because I host my apps in Google and I want my Postgres to be close. The idea here is we think most of our current customers and people we've talked to are hosting their apps in AWS or Azure. And so this way, when we spin it up in one of those data centers, your database is actually within the same data center as the AWS or Azure app instance, right? So we give you that kind of flexibility, but you're not tied to one. It's not exactly here today, but it will be in a couple soonish. I wasn't supposed to give a specific soonish. You'll actually be able to replicate between the two clouds. So you'll have one database running on AWS, and you can run the same thing in Azure, and you can replicate between the two of them. So your data will be in both data centers. We do encryption at rest and encryption in transit. We do backups and we do multi-availability supported, built-in point-in-time recovery for the last 7 days. And then this is the flexibility part also. We give you a bunch of extensions. And here's just a few of them. I'll show you the full list later as when we actually start doing the demo. And language support, and this is a really big one. Because of the way we're provisioning Postgres for you, we actually allow you to install or enable untrusted languages, right? So again, for those people who don't know, PL Python and PLR are what's considered untrusted languages as opposed to PL PGSQL. The difference between trusted and untrusted does not mean the same thing as safe and unsafe, right? Trust and untrusted is specific to the database, and it means trusted means the language you're writing in has no access to the base file system or base system objects, right? Whereas untrusted means, like PL Python, you can actually write code there that would open a file on disk as long as the Postgres user, or whatever user you're running Postgres with, has permissions to that directory. The PL Python actually can open that file on disk. And the same with PLR. The reason why this is different from safe unsafe is because safe unsafe is highly dependent upon you. In the same way that I think it's kind of unsafe to strap a large rubber band to my legs and jump off a large bridge, there are plenty of people, as evidenced by many videos, thinking that is a totally safe activity. So safe versus unsafe is very much the profile of your company. So I really want to make sure people understand the difference between safe and unsafe versus trusted and untrusted, right? Using PL Python, whether it's safe or not, highly depends on how you're running it, who you trust, right? That kind of stuff. And what's your security profile, right? Okay. So those are some of the features. Before I start going more about the features, I really want to talk to you about where we are with Crunchy Bridge right now. This launch of Crunchy Bridge was basically a little bit more than minimum viable product, MVP, right? It was like, let's get people working on it And then given Crunchy's ethos, which is a mix of customer driven or market driven plus where we want to see the market go. There's that mix in there. So we're looking in while we evolve things and see what we would really like. We also are really looking for feedback on things that are missing or that you really would like stop you from using this or would make it so much better. And there's multiple ways you can give us contact or give us feedback if you want. If you're already a customer, just talk to your salesperson or anybody that you're interacting with at Crunchy. That's fine. You can also, if you want to talk to Craig directly, well, you can start a conversation here, right? Right on the page, or you can email here, or I think there's probably a corporate email address somewhere. Yeah. info@crunchydata.com. You can email that as well, right? So any of those ways of giving feedback, I don't want you to see what would be appreciated. I don't want you to see what I'm showing today and say that's the entirety of it. That's the entirety of it for now. The way Craig and team are approaching this is there will be regular releases. You'll see new features dropping in all the time. I don't even know if we're going to be on like a release schedule as opposed to, hey, we dropped this new feature. Hey, we dropped this new feature in. So there'll be a lot of rapid iteration in the beginning as we are actually getting people to do stuff and giving us feedback, right? So like one of the things that will be coming really soon is what I said, like replication between data centers, right? And then you'll also notice the point in time recovery when I do that later, when I show that or talk about it. I'm not going to show it because right now it's just you open a ticket and say, hey, please restore my database from the following day. But the soonish, again, that will be a button on the web page. So any questions about where we are with the product, the cadence of delivering new features, any of that stuff? Any questions? I'll wait a second because I know there's a time delay. While I'm waiting for questions, I am going to... So I'm perfectly clear and everybody understands what I'm saying. I love that. So let's go ahead and log in then, right? Because that's probably what you're all like, okay, enough talk, Steve. Let's do the demo. So demo. So let me log out so you can see the login page. Basically, you go to bridge.crunchydata. Oh, or you can go to that page. Nope, it's not bridge.crunchydata.com. You just go to the page I showed here. No. You can go to the Crunchy Bridge page. If one of my people is in Slack or something, can you also give me the direct address for the page? I can't remember. Why did I think it was Bridge? Maybe it's crunchydata.com/bridge. I don't remember. Crunchybridge.com. Okay, sorry. Thanks, Kat. Everybody say hi to Kat. Or regular. So you just go to crunchybridge.com and that's how you can log in, or you can say you're a new user, right? If you're a new user, basically all we require is a first name, last name, email with your passwords, and then you register. You register and you get an email verification. You click that and then you're good to go. That's all you need. And then you can start provisioning servers. I'll show you the provisioning process. Right. So I'm going to sign in as me. And you can see that I've already made some clusters. Right now, the cluster spin up time is not fast enough for... No one wants to see that happen in real time. So I'm going to start one, but then we'll come back and look at it. So this one, Livestream Fire, actually has data in it, and it's in AWS US West 2. And this Azure is an empty database that's in East US for Azure, right? So those are two different databases, and they're using different resources. But let's go ahead and make a new cluster. So create cluster. You can do it from the create button there. Right now, we have Postgres 12. Right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say we want Postgres 12. Let's do AWS again, since probably most of you are on AWS. Let's also put it in US East. Now, you're going to say, okay, Steve, I see hobby and standard. What's the difference between these? Right now, the main difference between these is pricing. But that pricing reflects the server instances, the performance of the server instances underneath, right? This is very much a basic server, right? In AWS instances, it's a basic server. I don't use AWS that often, so I don't remember the naming, but these are the basic servers, and this is a much more high performance. I think this is maybe something like T's or M's or something like that. I don't know. Basically, the idea for now is that it's just the server instance underneath. over time, there'll be actually more features offered to the standard, because hobby isn't kind of like its name says. It's for development purposes, or you're running a hobby site, right? Where if you go down, or you're actually down is not the real issue. The real issue is around performance. So like if you're not getting, 100 transactions per second or something like that, or you don't care that you can't scale up to meet a lot of load, then hobby is perfectly fine, especially for development purposes, right? And then standard is more for, this is what you're actually running your real app on, right? So we're going to we'll do a standard 8. We can put in whatever amount we want, but it starts with 100. So let's just keep 100 gigabytes. This 100 gigabytes is just for your PostgreSQL storage, including your write-ahead logs and all that stuff. But this is just for your storage capacity, just for Postgres. Everything on the operating system, that's not included in that storage, okay? And so then we'll say next, and then you can say whether you want high availability, yes or no. And right now, what high availability means is automatic failover. So if your primary goes down, we'll automatically fail over to another instance. In the future, there'll be more features around this, what high availability means. But let's just say high availability for now. Cluster name. My awesome cluster. Actually, we can use dashes. So let's be a little easier to read. Okay, so that's what we're going to call it. Now, you're going to ask for create a password for logging into your database. This password is actually the Postgres user password. So I know we should clean that up a little bit and say Postgres user or super user password. So what you're doing here is you're creating the password for the super user and the Postgres user. And you know my favorite, which is password. Right, so you can see your password. I'm going to delete this instance after this stream is over. So I'm not worried about the password right now. And we say next. Now, right before then, if this was your first time creating a cluster, it would have shown you entering credit card information, right? So then that's when you give us, only at that point do you have to give a credit card to pay for what you want to pay for. If you want to do a purchase order or something like that through the company, definitely contact our salespeople. We have ways of handling that. But we tried to make this as easy as possible for developers and small shops and departments to get started. They just have to give a credit card and they can get going. And then you'll see your price down here for how much you're going to be paying a month for the stuff I asked for, right? So you can see pricing is very simple. It's just based on your instance type and your storage availability. And there's no other, and this many IO ops and this many network transfers and all that other stuff. It's simple and easy to understand the pricing. I hate that about all the cloud providers because it's such an unknown, right? Like this, I know it's $300 a month. No matter how many users, I may swamp my server if I get a ton of users, but I won't end up with a shocker of a bill because someone denial of serviced me, right? So that's the pricing, and you need a credit card to start, and then we're going to click deploy. And then here's my awesome cluster. And so it's already allocated the IP and I can see the credentials for that, right? So we give you the Postgres connection string, right? And so there it is, Postgres, blah, 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 and how big our database is and how much memory we have and how many cores we have, right? And if we wanted to get rid of that cluster, we would just click on this. That's how easy it is to get rid of a cluster. But we're not going to watch this live provision. Instead, we're going to go back to the dashboard. Oh, and if you wanted to file a ticket, say for the point-in-time recovery, that's under support, right? You just create a support ticket. Documentation is I'll go through all those. Documentation is a little sparse. It covers most of the main things you're going to want to do. There'll be, again, like we said before, more information will be added over time. Minimum viable product. That's the idea with rapid iteration. Okay, so dashboard. So let's start with the Azure live stream because that's an empty database. Right. So I want to show you what you would have to do for most users when they actually get going. So here's the live stream. This is an empty database. It's green. It's up. Nice. Show my credentials. I'm going to just copy and paste this directly. Since all we do when we start up provision a database for you is just make the Postgres database You have to log into that one. So the connection string, for those who haven't seen it before, because they're usually using something like PsychoPG or JDBC driver, it's username, password at host port database, right? So let's copy that, right? I got that copied. And then let's go right to my desktop client, and I can just do PSQL, paste that, and I'm in. Right? Because I put the username and password right in the connection string. If I didn't want to do that, I think I could just do, I haven't tried this yet. Oh, let's get out first. So if I didn't want to show my password to everybody, I could have done, and then it would say password, and then you get password prompted, right? And you'll notice here, like we said, encryption in transit and encryption at rest, we require SSL connections. Right, so we are by default. We require SSL for the between the client and the server, right? And then we encrypt on disk at rest. Okay, so that's it. You're into a Postgres instance. Now, I want to show people what extensions are available, and so let me grab the command because this is not something I do. This is not something I do frequently. So let's actually go ahead and paste in. Hold on one sec. If not, I'm just going to have to type it myself. But I put this in here specifically so you didn't have to see me put in typos. There we go. So select star from PG available extensions, order by name. And let's make this window really big because there's a lot of them, right? And so this is the list of all the extensions that we have pre-installed for you, right? It doesn't mean they're actually turned on in any database you make, unless you say create extension, right? But these are all available for you to use. And some of the ones that you won't get with other providers are PL/Python 2U, PL/Python 3U, PLR, right? So those languages you get that you can't get in other places, right? And we think that's actually a pretty big win. We also give you Postgres foreign data wrapper, which I think is pretty exciting, which we'll be adding the what's the Ogre foreign data wrapper or something like that. I think it's OGR foreign data wrapper. We'll be adding that soon for your geospatial types. You'll notice we have PostGIS. In the future, hopefully, we'll be soon adding PG routing. Right? I didn't see. Does anybody see PG routing? No, I don't see PG routing. But we should probably add PG routing for all the geo nerds. Right, but we have PostGIS raster and the Tiger geocoder and topology and the Postgres foreign data wrapper, like I said before, and all these other extensions, right? So they're all in there. If we can actually put the complete list in our documentation at some point in time and then just keep updating it as we go. But just so you know, there's a lot in there, right? And I'll do it again in case someone wants to just pause their screen to see if their favorite extension is in there, all right? One for developers that's important is PG stat statements, right? You should get to learn that. That'll show you your slow queries. For the data scientists out there, I actually think your biggest ones are probably PL/Python 3U and PLR. Right? You can actually write your functions using those languages rather than having to write it into PL/PGSQL. PL/PGSQL is on by default. That's there. See, we have that. And that is actually turned on in all databases by default. But other than that, there's no other extensions turned on. I should have said that. Okay. So those are the extensions that are available. Now, let's go to... I don't have PG admin installed on my machine. So the only way I can get to PG admin, because it's not my favorite, but I know a lot of people use PG admin. So we'll go to learn.crunchydata.com. Right? This is our free interactive learning tutorials that I've done a lot in here. So those of you who've been here before know all about this. Those who haven't, learn.crunchydata.com is our online interactive tutorials available 24/7. You can go in and play with them, and there's no charge. Okay, and you can learn all sorts of stuff. I encourage you to check it out. Learn.crunchydata.com. But I can get PG admin here. So let me go ahead and fire that up, because we start up PG admin for this, and then I can use PG admin here to connect to my database in the cloud. Okay. Okay. So let's see. PG admin probably hasn't started up. It's a pretty big web app. It might take a little while for it to start here, so we have to wait for that. Let me check to see if I got any questions in the chat. No questions in the chat. Anybody have any questions? I mean, part of the thing is, like, when I was trying to put together this demo, pgadmin's up, but I want to finish this little point. Part of the thing about putting together this demo is, and stuff to talk to you about, like, that was cool about it, is the fact that I'm not going to show anything different than it would be when you really normally run your Postgres instances, right? I mean, that there's no proprietary anything anywhere in it. And so it's like, okay, once I've spun up the cluster, that's the most exciting part, that all that stuff behind the scenes that I didn't have to do. Like, I didn't have to figure out the network topology. I didn't have to figure out how to do HA. I didn't have to do some sort of weird pricing calculations. I got extensions that I know I wanted. I didn't have to actually, tell my sysadmin, go ahead and put this in. And then everything else is just like a normal Postgres instance. Like, you'll notice I just pasted that into PSQL and I connected, and it looks like a normal database, right? So it was a little funny putting this together in the sense of, like, I'll just show you these are all just proof points that it's normal, right? So one of the things I want to show you in pgadmin 4, right, is we'll say, what was this? Oh, Azure, I don't know, I forget what I call it. Azure Streaming, Azure Test. Okay, so connection. All right, so where was my, it was here, right? Yeah. So this is my host. Copy that. The maintenance database Postgres. The username is Postgres. Because one of the things most developers are going to want to do, and maybe not data scientists, but maybe data scientists, is they're going to want to go in and create a new user. And I think I think this automatically does SSL. Prefer, yeah. Okay, so save. And there we are in our Azure streaming. And there's our database, right? And this is one of the things that's actually kind of nice inside of pgadmin is login groups and roles, that management, and the grant wizard, right? So one of the first things you're going to want to do is create probably a new role inside of your database, because you don't want to do most of your operations. I mean, unless this is a development server or something, you're not going to want to do most of your operations as the Postgres user, in the same way that on a Linux machine, you don't want to be in there day in and day out as the root user. You want to have a less privileged account that you do most stuff, and then elevate to Postgres or root if you need it. So we'll call this name reader, right? And you can make a reader account, which that will only have read privileges. And so we can say, can log in. Yes. It's not a super user, cannot create roles. It's up to you whether you want it to create databases. Probably not if you're just making a reader account, right? Cannot do that. Inherit rights from parent roles, sure. But we don't have any parent roles for this one. And membership, we could make a reader role membership. We don't have, or this could actually be a membership. This actually could be a role membership, or however you want to handle that. And then you can go through after you make your database, like here's my wine database I put in here, which will come up later. You can actually do stuff like grant wizard, right? Then we can say the table. We want to add a grantee. Oh, here we go. It took a little while to get up. We can say they have reader role, and their privileges is select, and that's it, right? And no grant options for that either. Yep. So then we can go ahead and do that, right? You don't have to memorize all the commands to do that. And so that account now has read privileges to that table. Okay, and I can do the same thing on the database too. I probably would need to do that on the database too. Do the grant wizard to make sure that I have access to the database, unless it did that under the hoods. I don't use pgadmin that much, so I don't know exactly. All right. Any questions on any of that? We good? Okay. So from now on, I wanted to show you that pgadmin worked, and you can use that to create, like, you should probably go in and create some roles when you first get started. And then from now on, the rest of the stuff I'm going to do in my favorite development environment, which is IDEA by IntelliJ, but this is the same as PyCharm or any of those. They're just the database extension. But I love it. I've been working on I've been working myself through some data science using just SQL, just to know what that would feel like. If you want to see the repo for that, this is my GitHub repo, the Steve 0, and it's Postgres-Fire. And in there, you can follow along with all the SQL I'm doing. Basically, I'm pretending I'm doing my PhD research again, but with a different problem set. And I've got the problem set is predicting fire based off of weather from a data station, right? And so what I've got in this database is a whole bunch of fun stuff. And it's weather data and fire data, right? And I'm doing a whole bunch of SQL with it. So we'll do some stuff with that. But we're also going to use a wine data set that Kat's been working on to show some data learning. So in here, I'm going to now add the... Got to go back to here for a second. I'm going to go add the... Let's go back to the dashboard. The fire data set, the one that already has fire. Oh, let's see if my awesome cluster's up yet. Nope, still thinking about it. Sometimes it takes a while. All right. So live stream fire. I just need the connection string information here, right? So I just need in this case, I just need the server. So in idea, I say I want a new data source. That's PostgresQL. It knows that that's typically what I sent. And I say fire on bridge. And then the host, I just copy that, right? And then the user, Postgres, like we did before. Password is password. Test my connection. We're connected. Great. Okay, great. By default, it's not going to load all the schemas in there, I don't think. All the objects in the schemas, right? It only loaded one database, the Postgres database. I can go in and tell it I want other databases. So I should have said this under schema. I want the Postgres schema, and I want public, right? And so let's see what's inside of public right now. So we got to refresh this because we should get fire in here now too. Should say two did, no? Did I not say fire? Oh no, I said oh, this is where pair programming would have been good. You guys could have told me, you know what, actually, check the fire database. So here we go. Okay, there we go. So there's some schemas in here. Let's see, it's in public. Right, so I've got some tables. There's my tables that I have in there. Let's say I wanted to import the wine data set in here because I actually want to put this in here as well. So again, it's just normal. I mean, this now actually just becomes a demo of idea features because it's just the normal things you always do. So for example, public, import data from file. There's my wine quality and I can do this, right? And then I can do, let's see, the names are not really that good, but we're only going to do alcohol and quality in a little bit. But I do want to I want to change this name. That's not a very friendly database name. We'll call it wine quality. And then I want to add a new column because there's no primary key in this data set. You know, data scientists sometimes just have the columns without some primary key, but it's usually nice to have them. So I'll say ID. It's an auto incrementing and it's my primary key and it's an integer. Okay, I think that's it. Let's go ahead and import it. And what you'll see here is in a second, I now have the wine equality data set in my database. So it just worked as expected, even though it's hosted up in the cloud. And now it's going to get replicated over to the HA instance when that just behind the scenes, and I don't have to think about any of that. And one of the things we're probably going to be adding relatively soon is PG Bouncer and read-only replicas so that you can do things like load balance with your app and have the app that only read from the read instances and only write to the primary, right? So you can shuffle load like that and scale up a lot better. All that's coming. But it won't be anything, it'll just magically be a thing that you turn on as opposed to something you have to figure out how to do and set up. Okay, so let me see. I think I'm going to, there's not many other, I had other things I wanted to show you, but I'm going to show you some of the, I'm going to just show you some PL Python stuff. I haven't gotten the PLR stuff working yet. I'm still working on that, but I've got some PL Python that Kat wrote. She's got a blog post coming out soon that'll explain more of what this is, and I put this in Stream SQL, right? So the first thing we have to do is hers is in Python. So we're going to create the extension PL Python U in our database. Oh, because we're on the wrong. Let's make a new console. Let's make a new console. New query console. There we go. And let's do that again. What? Ugh. Well, we can actually do this from the command line too. So let's actually go back to the command line. I was going to show it, but something funky's happening there. So let's get our credentials here. All right. So let's get out of this database. That doesn't help if you just try to do that, right? So let's do PSQL. So you can see we can connect to the database. That was just something funky, an idea. I don't know what that was going on. But then I think it's because in testing this, so that I didn't show you, no one likes to see me put in typos and broken things. I called my connection Fire on Bridge. And so maybe it's thinking it's reusing those console connections or something. I don't know. I probably should have named it something different. Anyway, not material. You can see that I can connect to it, no problem. Let's just grab the stuff out of IDEA and put it in here. So actually I can say this one, create extension PL Python 3U. Oh, that's right, because I'm in the Postgres instance. I need to connect to Fire. Right, so now I'm in the Fire database. I was in the Postgres database. So let's do that again. There. So I've created the extension PL Python 3U. Now it's enabled in that database. Now, Cat has written this nice function. The use case for this is you just want to run correlations. But as opposed to the built-in correlation functions in Postgres, this one actually will do the Pearsons, which is the normal one you're used to, which is the parametric. But it'll also do the Spearman correlation, which is the non-parametric. It just correlates based on ranks, not based on actual values. So it's resistant to outliers, right? And so if you think you have like kind of really just weirdly distributed data, Spearman's might be better. And it also, in addition to just giving you the correlation value, will give you the probability that this is significant, right? Or whatever the probability is that this was by chance, it was random. So we're gonna go ahead and create that extension. And notice we're using NumPy and SciPy, right? So this is, normal big data stuff. And there's this you could run this bit on your own machine as long as you have, it just takes in 2 arrays, right? So you just have to feed in 2 arrays of data. Here we're gonna actually take that almost exact same code, copy, and then paste that into our console. And now we have that function, right? And then what I can do now is do this, right? I'm going to call correlation test on alcohol versus quality. So this was as a general non-fan of wine. Sorry, Craig. I postulated that perhaps quality was highly correlated with alcohol content. So what we're going to do is select from wine equality, right? We're calling this wine equality right here. And we're selecting from wine equality these 2 columns, and we're just saying give us all the columns that come back from this output. Right? And Kat will explain more what's going on in her blog post coming soon. But I want to show you what happens here. Let's clear the screen. And we run that. And there we go. So we get the correlation. Seems like there is a nice correlation between alcohol and wine quality. And it's highly significant, right? That's e to the minus 91, which is basically almost like there's no way this correlation could happen by chance. Right? And the nice part is we notice that the Pearsons and the Spearmans is pretty closely aligned. So that means the data is probably normal. I mean, it doesn't have too many outliers, and because the numbers are actually relatively close, right? And so why I wanted to show you this and why I think this is cool is you now actually have the ability to put the functions right next to the data, right? If you were doing in some other hosted database out there and you wanted to run that correlation test using SciPy, you would have to basically suck all the data across the wire out of the database and then feed it into the function on that client machine to get those results, right? But here, we actually get it as a stored function that the user, that operates right in the same place as the data and can take advantage of all the good stuff on the server. Usually you have big honking database servers. And the other thing about this that's really nice is, as a data scientist, if I wanted to have a special function in here that I wanted to, we're building a BI application and we're building a dashboard, and we know that the end user wants the cumulative distribution function. They probably wouldn't even, most of them don't know that, but they want something like, give me the probability that if I change the price of this item to this, I'll get this many more sellers, right? And so they want a dashboard where they can play with that. And you've written some complicated Python function or R function to do that based on regression and all that stuff. You can actually just put it in the database. And when the app developer is trying to actually write the web app that goes to that dashboard, they just call your function, right? So you as the data scientist, you're happy because no one's messed with your function. And the app developer is happy because they don't have to try to translate that code into whatever code, like if they're writing in JavaScript or if they're writing in Java or if they're writing, even if they're writing in Python, they don't have to find where to integrate that, right? Especially if they're writing in R, right? That's really hard to integrate in. So everybody's happy, and because the data scientist is happy because no one's messing with their function and they know it's correct, at least to their best of their knowledge. The app developer's happy because they just call a single database function and they get the answers they want nicely formatted. And then the business user is happy because they've got a nice widget that they can play around and make those decisions. So that's some of the power of what's happening with this database because we've given those extensions. So I think that's going to end the demo part, and I'll just go back and like reiterate as we go back here to the beginning, Crunchy Bridge, right? To reiterate the main things I want you to take away from this. One, it's a hosted Postgres as a service with more flexibility. You get to pick your cloud. So you can pick whichever cloud you want. You can actually pick both clouds and replicate between them, right? You don't have to be tied to one specific provider, and your database will be deployed. Your database instances will be the same between the two, meaning all the functionality will be the same between the two. It's not like I get this in this provider, but I don't get it in this provider, or this extension's here, but it's not here, right? The other thing that there's better support for this, right? So if you're sometimes frustrated with some of the larger cloud providers that you don't get nice support, you can get that here. You also get access to our experts, right? Which is a lot at Crunchy. I mean, for all my spatial heads, you know that Paul Ramsey and Martin Davis both work at Crunchy. And so that if you put in a spatial problem, that's something in the database, you've got those two guys looking at it, right? And the same thing with all the other Postgres stuff. Lots of experts looking at that stuff. And then the last thing is, this is a rapidly iterating product. Today was basically, or yesterday, was basically the launch of a minimum viable product, plus a little bit more. Just a little bit though. And so expect in the weeks that are coming up, new features to be dropped in. Expect the dashboard to change, right? So all you have to do is give a credit card and go, and you'll see constant improvement. And finally, what the ask from you, besides your credit card, is feedback, right? We are very much appreciative and take it very seriously when users or potential users give us feedback. This is very much building. What we're trying to do is build a Postgres for the Postgres community, meaning and our community for that is both DBAs and stuff, so that this can become sort of part of a hybrid infrastructure in the long term, where our operator and the cloud instances are talking through the same dashboard. So for the DBA stuff, if they're running Kubernetes and they want a cloud instance to replicate between, right, you can replicate between all of them. That's very long term. But also in our case, the Postgres community is all the users, like the Django users, the Drupal users, all the people, all the Java users, everybody using Postgres. We want this to make app developers and data scientists' lives better. So if you have strong opinions or ideas about what would make it better, again, you can chat it here. You can click the contact button, or you can write to info@crunchydata.com. And I'll put the links to all the normal stuff in here. Before we go, are there any other questions about what's happening? I mean, I'm sorry the demo was mostly about other stuff, but again, that's also the beauty of it. It's just, you get Postgres without having to worry about all the nitty gritty details, which most app developers and data scientists don't want to think about, right? So I was just I have one more if you want. You can go if you want, but I wanted to show you, we can use Qgis, right? I forgot about that because I've got a lot of data heads, spatial people in my stream, given my background. So let's start up Qgis, and we'll use the Fire one again. So all we're going to need for this is just the name instance. Right. All right, so PostGIS. Let's create a new one. We'll call this one Bridge is Awesome. Right, and the host is this. And the database will go straight to Fire. We won't deal with Postgres. I think, what did I have to do here? Oh, right. I had to do configurations here, and it has to be... No, it wasn't this. It wasn't here. Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't here. Hold on. There's something where oh, yeah, here it is. I had to do it here. I have to tell it that it can allow SSL. So if you use Qgis to connect, if you say disable, that will not work because we require it, remember? So you have to say allow. And then the username, we'll just username Postgres, and the password is password, right? And test the connection, right? Connect is awesome. Okay. And here we go. So bridge is awesome. Let's look at the layers in there. It didn't remember the passwords. Nice QGIS. I don't know why you... Oops. Username is Postgres. Password is password. I don't know why you didn't save it. There we go. So public. Fire has a lot of things in here, so I'm not going to pull that up right now. But I will pull up the units. These are the CAL FIRE units. Imagine that we had a couple fires here lately. And so I was very interested in this data, and it's loaded all the layers. And there you go. So that's actually reading off my Fire instance, right? And I could be writing my web app against that and all that other stuff. So, I mean, just wanted to demo it and talk about it and show it. And you can also import data using the QGIS, the database manager, right? We now have PostGIS. We have the bridge is awesome, and you could import a layer or a file that way into that database. Okay. So that wraps it up. Again, and you can also send me or Craig on Twitter any feedback you want. And with that, I am going to, hopefully we'll be back in the swing of doing a little bit more streams. And I've got some good stuff to show. So I'll be coming to you more regularly now with the fires going and stuff. So bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Oh, and to all my fellow members of the tribe, Chag Sameach, Gemar Chatima Tovim. May you be written in the book of life and have a happy new year for Rosh Hashanah. Okay? Bye, everybody.